Hello.
You hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, who is that?
This is Alex Mutro.
Hi, Alex. This is
Son
Richard.
of Richard. You're
Yeah.
also Richard. Hi.
So my name is your dad's namesake.
Yep.
I am your dad's namesake.
Yeah. Thanks for having this Zoom meeting.
Have
Hopefully
you
I can.
been Zooming in your these days?
Yeah. Yeah. With some friends and family, uh, and a lot for work.
Yeah, you're a pretty techie guy, if I recall, right?
Well, yep. My brother's the super tech in the family, but I'm in that field as well.
I gotta unmute my speaker though.
I can hear you.
Okay, so we have Louise on the line. Louise is a Gottschalk, for your information, Alex, in case you didn't know, in case you hadn't been introduced before. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so you understand what I mean. She's a Gottschalk,
Right.
a cousin. No,
Grandma's side of the family. Oh no.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's see. No, wait a minute.
Am I going to have to get out my family history that
Yeah, some point.
Uncle Phil wrote?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm struggling with my camera. I'm in my car because I have a quiet agreement with my housemate, and so at this time of day, I need to do my Zooming from my car, and that's a little bit of a struggle. So you're seeing me struggling. Yeah, let's see. So gosh, I just read a little. Have you seen your dad's autobiography, Alex?
No. I didn't know he had one.
Well, it's a very interesting document. Kind of charming in its naivete, at the same time as being, he was quite a street smart, cool guy. So there's that in it, but the writing is very, very strange, and the strangeness of the writing makes it very charming. But
Where
anyway, he
did it come
goes.
from? I mean, I have a lot of manuscripts that he wrote, but I didn't know anything was ever put out there.
Well, no, I don't. Yeah, maybe that was the wrong message. maybe it's what you're calling a manuscript. Anyway, it's something that he wrote down, memoirs of his life. And I have a copy of it. And
Wow.
it's kind of delightful in a way. I want to somehow incorporate it at some point in this conversation, which, since you're new to the meeting, I'll kind of brief you quickly that my intention is for us to be connected as a family and in communication, and kind of gleaning out the stories that we have from our various perspectives of that remarkable generation of Mutros and our memories of it and that sort of thing. So some of you are too young to have much in the way of memories, but you have your own story, so we're interested in that as well. So it's just a matter of being in communication, being in conversation, and being friends. And now you see Anne on the camera. Have you and Alex met before, Anne?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we going to see Louise? Louise, are you going to show us your picture?
I'm trying to figure out why you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get my husband involved because he's the techie guy. They can't see my picture.
No, I don't know why we could see him.
We can see you.
Uh,
We're trying to figure it out.
Look, I have a nice picture of Richard here.
oh, good.
Oh my goodness.
We see them.
You sure that's not Paul?
No.
That is my dad.
Yeah, he was in a ceramics class. This is in 1972.
They can't see us.
No, see?
Oh, I see.
Sideburns.
Try to do what you just did. Wait, listen.
Okay, well, again, I will keep repeating this because I haven't actually achieved my goal. The goal is to collect pictures
There you
like
go.
that. So, Anne, I would like for you to scan that picture and email it to me.
Yeah, okay. I just bought a scanner, so I haven't quite learned how to use it yet, but I will.
I understand.
I'll send it to you then.
Okay, so this is a general plea for everyone in the family to send pictures of that generation of Mutros and you know, whatever else you want to share. But I want to collect them.
Hey, Johnny.
Johnny?
It's Alex.
Hey,
Hey,
Bill.
Alex.
see.
It's Johnny.
You look like
It's
you're
been a
running a
long time.
podcast, Alex.
Hmm?
Alex looks like he's running a podcast.
Yeah, I got my professional mic. I got the whole
What do you
works.
do? Yeah. Where's your coffee mug?
Alex in the morning.
Right.
My friends, these liberals.
So
Now that I
Alex,
think of it,
Vicky,
if we'd had this technology in your dad's era, he would have been great at this. He could have been a podcaster.
He was a heck of a bartender.
Yeah, that's kind of the foundation of what I'm thinking about. That he would have been a great conversationalist and an amusing kind of meeting leader. So let's see. It's only been 2 minutes beyond our starting time, so we'll be a little patient. For some reason, Justin likes to come late, and I don't know about Mikey. She should be showing up, and Susie said she was real hopeful, so her fingers are crossed, and mine are too. So far, I have not succeeded in getting emails through to Giselle, and so I'm kind of depending on Boots. Hopefully she'll be able to join us and help with connecting with Giselle.
So remind me, Richie, who's Giselle?
Giselle is Paul's wife.
Oh, okay.
George's wife.
Oh, sorry, George's wife.
George, okay.
George's
Yeah.
wife.
So she's in France as well as Boots, right?
Say again?
They're both in France.
Yeah, they
Giselle and Boots. And whereabouts?
Giselle's in Paris. Boots is in north of Marseille,
Okay.
in a town called Simian-la-Rotonde.
Sounds nice.
Oh,
Quaint.
it's heaven on earth.
Mm.
It's well, we can talk about these things as we go along, but
Okay, we
just to
digress.
fill you in advance, George and Giselle were married and they lived in Paris, and they had a restaurant there.
Right.
And last time I was in Paris, I visited the restaurant where new people, of course, have taken over, and we had a nice lunch with Giselle, and she's still kicking, so hopefully we'll get her included. But that restaurant, she had a bunch of memorabilia about the restaurant, including the fact that Salvador Dali was one of the patrons of the restaurant. So she was an actress, so she knew some of the celebrities in France. So these are all interesting stories if we can get the right people to speak up
Yeah.
at the right time. Anyway, Alex, just to tell you a little about the protocol, when we officially start the meeting, we'll give everybody 2 minutes to kind of check in, and not just say what you're up to, and maybe it's appropriate to give a little bit of history, you know, who your relationships are and stuff like that, but just to kind of get into the meeting. So we do that at the beginning, and I'm not saying that we're at the beginning quite yet. I usually wait. Well, it's been 5 minutes, so I think we should. Oh, you're putting a chat in. Okay, great.
Yeah, I just happened to remember this website all about Gaslight Square. I'm sure you've probably seen it.
No.
If it's the same one, it's nice to read. I think it's somebody local in St. Louis that put it together. I'm looking.
Was
for
that the one you said, Johnny?
No, I didn't send a website. I sent an article.
Oh.
Okay, so
You want to turn?
so in this beginning part of the meeting, which we're still kind of tiptoeing into the technology to be really comfortable with it and adept with it. So at the beginning of the meeting, we wait a little while, and we've done that. And then we'll start our 2-minute check-ins, and then more people will join. So that'll be very awkward, and we'll have to include them and all that sort of thing. So that's the way this technology works. It's kind of stop and go and running into technical glitches and solving those and getting on with it. But it's the best we can do at the moment. And there are lots of opportunities provided in this strange moment in history. So we should just learn to take advantage of it and be innovative and creative and see what comes out in the context of being a family and being in connection as a family. So that's kind of my check-in. I'll count that as my check-in and say, who's next? So again, when nobody speaks up, then I get to call on somebody. So I'll call on Anne.
Nothing new since last week. Still haven't figured out my new scanner yet, but
well,
pretty much the same.
Okay, but Alex was not here last week, so say a little bit more about what you're scanning and stuff like that.
Oh, I'm just trying to scan all the children's pictures, so that
I'd love to see those.
Yeah. So in case there was a fire, then I wouldn't have lost them all. And then after that, I'm going to scan all the older family pictures and the Mutro stuff. So I'll do that later on. I'll send that along.
Do you have many pictures?
Of the kids or the older pictures?
The ones that are appropriate to share with us. Are there
Not
lots
that
and lots?
many. No.
Well, excuse me, I'm stepping across the protocols here because usually at 2 minutes, everybody else just listens in rapt attention,
Doesn't have to.
but I'm interacting. So the question so for photographs, if there are many, many of them, there's a new technology that I haven't explored yet called a photo, something like, it's like a thumb drive for photos, and it takes, you plug it in and it gets all your photos and organize them in some way. So that's just information for you. Might make it easy.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm on. Hello.
Louise, you want to go?
Yes.
Okay, I have the family Bible, but I have to locate it in my study or garage, and I have old pictures of my family. I have to find them also, but other than that, you know, I have the Mutro book that Phil wrote, and of course, my father was very fond of the Mutros because he lived with them for a while when he was 9 years old after he had a couple surgeries to, he was kind of failure to thrive at that point, and Annie and the Mutro cousins and Louis all got him kind of rehabbed. So I'm gonna cry. He never forgot that. And I think he patterned himself after Louis quite a bit with the finances and investing. So, no, I'm talking about his uncle, Louis. And so, and Phil, of course. Yes, Chris is right. Anyway, so my dad was extremely fond of the Butro cousins.
So what is your dad's first name?
Louis,
Okay, and his dad was Max?
yes.
And from what I've read from Richard's writing, Max was a really prominent character in St. Louis.
Right, he was
So
a second violinist in the St. Louis Symphony, and he was an artist, and I think he was head of the union in the symphony, and he wore spats and top hats and walked with a cane, and it was kind of a character. But I think Kelmy was the one that was the financial glue, because
There's a picture of Max right here.
right, so they bought a 6-family apartment house from Uncle Louis, who built it, and that's how they made it through the Depression. They rented it out, and the 4 boys, they would turn over the rentals, and so that's how they made it through the Depression.
got it. Well, we want to know more about that at some point. Okay.
Here's a picture of Max.
Oh, I see.
Who was that
That's
from?
Max. Cool.
That's when we visited him in Tucson.
When
Yeah,
would you
cool.
say?
Oh no, you're talking about now that's Max, my dad's brother.
Oh.
Okay, that's Max Jules, and he was, at 13, he was going to college for art. He was an industrial engineer. He's in Who's Who in American Art. And so he's the son of Max, my grandfather.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is he the oldest?
Yes, he was the oldest.
He's a character.
Yeah, he was a real character. He also had a furniture line. It was a wrought iron and leather furniture, and it was purposely uncomfortable. That sort of era of furniture. So yeah, he was quite a character. He worked in the university there in Arizona. He was a professor.
And he made those chairs out of inner tubes of trucks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so he invented the freezer case that they have in grocery stores. That's one
Wow.
of his inventions. So if you look him up in Who's Who in American Art, he's in there.
You know, one
Cool.
strange thing is that when we went there, he said that he invented this kind of a light where you just touch it and it turns on. And what's strange is Kwan's brother also invented the same type of thing like 20 years later.
The other thing he was into was sound systems. He was heavily into sound systems. So,
Okay, now, unless you have some more, Louise, you've got your 2 minutes is up, and Anne has bled over into your 2 minutes, so her 2 minutes is up. And let's move on to Susie. Hi, Susie.
I made it this time.
Yay! We're so glad. So we're doing a 2 minute check-in share. You have 2 minutes max, and you can take any portion of it that you want.
I got something great. You ready?
Yeah.
See this? Can you see it?
Jade plant?
That's your jade plant bonsai?
This is my bonsai. You see it?
Yes?
Yeah.
she
Called
said a bonsai.
Ficus deltoides. Ficus deltoides. And it's grown 2 inches
Holy moly.
since I
Nice.
got it. But now I'm going to have to trim it. But the trouble is, I don't want to hurt it. I'm scared. I don't know where to trim it or how to trim it. But isn't that cute?
I'm sure there's a YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Boots used to do a lot of bonsai. She could tell you.
Anyway,
So Susie, 2 minutes, go ahead.
that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it this time. Next time I'll show you some of my orchids because that's what I'm kind of like into now. And everything else is going. You look good in a hat, Richard.
Thank you.
I like that hat.
Yeah, my hair is a mess, so the hat's better.
Oh, well, one looks nice.
Anyway,
But
since
otherwise,
you're just to feedback a little bit with you, which is against the rules. Are you in touch with the Burnham Woods nursery still?
they are closed.
Oh,
Mhm.
Burnham Woods was of the family of Daniel Burnham, a very famous architect in Chicago. And so they had a great landscaping business, now closed. So sorry about that.
Yeah, it was beautiful. But it's pretty much line. Everybody's just creeping along here. Bloomington's pretty quiet town, and the tennis and it's starting to open up a little bit, which is nice. It feels very pleasant, and the university is going to open in September, so that'll bring some more. So things are going along well. That's my
Cool.
presentation.
Glad to hear that. Alex, how about you? Go ahead.
Well, what have I been doing? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen any of you. Justin, hey. I've been playing music a lot. I'm playing mostly banjo now and also steel guitar. And I've been working from home, but I've always worked from home, so it's not much of a difference. I feel very lucky that this has not affected me the way it is so many other people, this quarantine. And of course, my mother passed away a year ago. It was very difficult. She died of cancer, and you know, I was with her at the end. You know, I took care of her, so it was very hard. But I feel like I've come out of all that, and now I'm stuck in my house. I'm living in University City in a beautiful part of town I never thought I'd live in, and I like to walk around a lot, and that's about it. How about y'all?
Okay, let's go to Justin. 2 minutes.
Hey, hey, I thought of a story about Grandpa. I don't know how it fits in very well, but has anybody ever heard that Grandpa was kind of a religious fanatic?
Oh,
Yes.
Or-
Me?
we know that.
Catholic apostolic, right?
Yeah.
The
Apostolic.
Catholic Apostolic is right, and I'm wondering if anybody got to experience the Catholic Apostolic meeting down in Compton Heights. I don't
No.
see a lot of people jumping up. I thought John might have, but he might be a little too young. But I thought I'd tell you about that because I had that experience, and so
I had to go on a pre-bill and they did saw this nice.
Okay,
Compton
Justin,
Heights.
hang on a second.
Yeah, sure.
Why don't you just let it, you have 1 more minute to just check in, and then after that, we'll hear
That'd be
the
great.
stories, okay?
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah,
still have a
oh,
little
yeah.
bit of time just for checking in, but we want to hear the story.
Oh, okay. I didn't know exactly where you were. Yeah, we're just we're still down here in the Ozarks. We're still pretty serious about sheltering in place. Even all this, it seems like a long time. Sometimes we say our friends because we have some land here, 80 acres, so we can get out and sit outside by the pond or something like that, and see people. But even that, we don't even do that too much. But we're still pretty serious. I have as far as family news, I have a granddaughter, Jillian. It's Ruben's daughter, getting married in August. I really don't know how that's going to come out very well because she invited a pretty big party of people, and I don't know what they're going to be doing as far as social distancing or anything like that. It's less than 2 months away. So Marianne, my wife, and I, of course, we're pretty undecided about going there. I mean, it makes it kind of difficult to, make that kind of risk with, like 100 people or 200 people. So we're still in limbo, but we're like, I say, I'm going to die of something, but it's not going to be this virus. So that's I've made up my mind about that.
Cool.
But anyway, we're doing good here.
Excellent. Good news. Okay, how about Vicky?
Well, this last week I've just continued to do my projects around the house, all the painting of my porch outside, and repaired a low spot in the bricks, and shining up a doorbell I didn't know was brass, and I just kind of keep doing that sort of thing. And let's see, is there anything else we've been doing?
No, just enjoying it. We had some really nice weather, sunny 80s and low humidity, especially for St. Louis. That's blessing. It's great. So
yeah, so just enjoying the porch, knowing that we don't have to do any work on it anymore.
Yeah.
And a lot of our little lunches outside, so it's just slowing down our pace and enjoying our time, and as John said, some really nice weather.
Wonderful. John, you want to add anything?
Oh yeah. Later on, not now during the intro, the 2-minute period, I do have some pictures that I could share. If not this time, next time, depending if we have enough time. And they're of Mutro, Switzerland. So I know, Justin, you've been to Mutro, Switzerland, I believe. And so I don't know who else on this call has made the great journey to all the way over to Switzerland and then seen the town or anything. So anyway, I have some pictures from when I was there.
Oh, I have one. So, Alex, I'm Vicki Berry, and John and I are celebrating 5 years together this year. And
Wow.
we just do a lot of traveling and enjoy each other's company. So that's
Yeah,
who I am.
that's
Definitely seen all the travel pics on social media.
No, yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
am so
looking on
jealous.
hiatus right now.
Right.
Mom, I put some stick on.
That's it from here.
Okay, great. Mike, you want to chime in?
Yes, hello everyone.
Hi, Michelle.
Nice to see everybody's smiling faces. Nice to see you, Alex.
See.
Long time no see. It's been a little bit. Yeah, I was a little tardy joining in.
Who's that?
My mom is having heart trouble, and yeah, so I've been to the emergency room with her in the last couple days, and so it's very concerning. So I'm kind of dealing with high blood pressure and racing heart stuff. So
Oh.
yeah, so, and I have my little granddaughter Coral with me. Coral, you want to say hi? No, she doesn't. She doesn't want to say.
Hi, Coral.
And yeah, so kind of going through it with mom right now, a little bit.
Does she live near you?
Yeah, she's like a block away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're quite close. So it's upsetting to me.
Sure.
So don't want to lose my mom just yet. So we're trying to figure out what's going on with her. But as she says, we get old and we die. Those are her parting words this morning. So.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, well, it doesn't have to happen right away, does it? And so I had to go to the hospital, and that was an interesting experience. And I was so afraid that that was the last I was going to see her, because you sort of check her at the door and you're not allowed in. You're not allowed to hang out. You're not allowed to wait. And fortunately for cell phones, you know, I could check in with her that way. But otherwise, you know, I've heard horror stories where, you know, and they want to test her for COVID, but she's like, I don't have it. I just, you know, I don't have any symptoms. There's no reason to test me. So.
Sounds like Trump.
Yeah.
Well, don't say that to her. She wouldn't like hearing that at all. But she has an ear infection on top of it. So anyway, that's what I'm up to right now. In addition to all the other things I'm up to, cooking wise, doing a lot of cooking as usual.
Okay, well, I think everybody's had their 2 minutes, so we can proceed to just general chit chat. But let me reiterate, because we have more people here now, that I'm interested in collecting these photos. So emailing them to me would be highly appreciated. And then we want to flesh out all the anecdotes, the stories, the memories and things. One thing, I'll just like give you an example. Like Richard was really a cool guy. My uncle Richard, Alex's dad. And he was kind of the source of the Gaslight. Was it called the Gaslight Bar?
Yes.
Yes.
Gaslight Bar.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was center of activity around that time in history. But what I remember that was cool was, you know, we were staying at the grandma's house, and he came in with a slot machine. Somehow he had acquired a slot machine, and he brought it home, and we could play slot machine all day, and it had the back removed, so you could go reach around the back and pick up coins and then play, and you didn't have to lose anything, but you could win stuff. I don't think you were allowed to keep them. It was just the glitz of playing slot machines. So that was really, really cool. That was one of the cool things about Richard.
You know, I remember that. Let me jump in just for a second. I remember that too. And it was in kind of that, like the Talbott house. There was kind of an apartment over kind of to the, like if you're going in, it's kind of to the left. That's where that slot machine was.
Right.
And I don't know if Richard was trying to keep track of the money, but it was like for nickels. And he had put, for some reason, he had put like nail polish on some of the nickels to kind of keep track. I don't know. It was a real slot machine though. I don't know where he got it. But yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, Richie, because I'd forgotten about the great slot machine era of the Talbott House.
Another thing about Richard was he was a dreamer. He would think up cool things.
Ideas, man.
And he had this project that he had going for a while of going to Europe, getting on the Trans-Siberian Railroad, going across Russia and across China, and buying a Chinese junk, sailing it to America through the Panama Canal, up the Mississippi River, and then selling rides up and down the Mississippi River. I don't think he got very far.
That's an idea.
But that was his idea.
Did you ever ride on it?
I gotta go. Sorry, I'd love to visit, but gotta work. I'll try to check in next week.
Okay, well, we want some more stories from you. So maybe some music too.
Yeah, banjo. Bring your banjo.
Yeah,
okay, bye.
it'd be great.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, Richie, do you remember? Richard started the Painted Pig restaurant. Remember, he liked starting restaurants, and he started the Painted Pig in Clayton. John, you remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
He had, I don't know, it had
a pig hanging outside of it, right?
It had a pig.
Pig.
It was from like a carnival ride pig, so it was like a painted pig.
Yeah.
I don't remember that restaurant was there very long.
Yeah.
But
years, but yeah.
But it was a great name anyway.
Well, how many of us remember the Three Fountains?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We were all. So whoever raised their hand were actually in the restaurant?
Okay, me too.
Okay, cool. And then the story of Grandma when she moved to the penthouse of the Musical Arts Building, and she kind of ruled that whole Gaslight area as an empress. And
that's the only time I ever met her was at the restaurant, actually.
Wow.
Oh wow.
I remember. Can I say something?
Yes, speak right up.
When one of the opening nights, we went there with the whole entourage. There were about 6 of us with Grandma, and it was all very wonderful. And Paul was, we were treated like she was treated like a queen, and we felt so special. I was just a little jerk kid, but whatever. I felt special. But there was a piece of glass in one of the plates. So that was
no.
I know, it was kind of bad. But the other thing I remember about Grandpa, when he was going, I was maybe 6 or so, and he didn't see very well, and he would sing a lot when he was walking, and I'd say, "Hi, Grandpa," and he'd say, "Who are you?" And that really hurt my feelings. It's like, oh my gosh, he doesn't even, of course, the guy had how many kids running around, and it was like, but it just cut me to the quick.
Sorry.
Never gotten over it.
Oh my God.
Did you
Well,
wear gloves?
we know who you are.
Were those the days when you wore gloves when you went out?
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah.
San Francisco, we wore gloves. So when I was 8 and 9, yeah, we went to, all that stuff. But anyway, back to Grandpa, and he'd roll his cigarettes, remember?
Mm-hmm.
He would roll his own cigarettes, and he'd sit at one end of the table with his head down, with all the meal was in one bowl. And the rest of us were talking, and he was just there after he said the prayer. And then if we tried to say something, Paul would say, who said you could talk? Remember that, Richard? I mean, it's
that's that snarky mutual humor.
Oh my gosh.
Always put downs.
He survived. Anyway, that's my
well, one thing I remember about Grandpa is his favorite food was tripe à la mode de Caen.
Mm.
Has anybody ever tasted that?
Yes, it's awesome.
Paul made it all the time, and he would torture me with it. It's not one of my favorite dishes, but yeah, tripe à la mode de Caen. Yeah. I have a picture of my father from some newspaper article where he's demonstrating and offering that recipe up. I have it framed somewhere, where he's looking very dapper and demonstrating the tripe à la mode de Caen. I had it hanging at the restaurant for years.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then there's always
You never went to
picket.
the restaurant? You never were in St. Louis around that time?
Yes, I was there
Louise.
many times
Tuscan
before
Louise.
I was 5 years old. I spent a lot of time at the restaurant. I used to visit my father there quite a lot. And I was treated like the little princess and got the run of the place, I guess. And then we moved away. And I came back once when I was 8 years old, and it was a very fancy dinner. And I remember eating frog's legs and snails, and I remember it detail, duck à l'orange, and some sort of flambéed banana thing over an ice cream sandwich, which I recreated for my own restaurant. It was on my own menu for years with we didn't flambe at tableside as they did in those days, but it was like a caramelized banana thing. Yeah, those were very memorable to me.
Does anybody make picket?
Oh, my mom
I made
made
it once.
And then threw it out.
Oh no, it's good.
Kind of like polenta of potato
Well,
But the yeasty
flat
cake.
bread.
the brown crust on it's good. That's part of it.
Yeah.
Salt. Gotta add a lot of salt. Give it some flavor.
Butter.
I think it's fermented because of the yeast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like
Yeast.
yeasty mashed potatoes or yeasty grated potato. I don't know, the raw potatoes. I can't remember. I do have a recipe somewhere. The recipe for picket. And then my father would talk about grandmother making pumpernickel soup. Did anybody experience pumpernickel soup?
No, but I heard about it.
Yeah, consider yourself lucky, according to my father.
What was the pumpernickel in it? The bread? Or
Yeah, like a bread soup, I suppose. Must be like some sort of,
bowl soup?
food from the Depression or something. When you're really poor, you make soup out of your loaf of dry pumpernickel, maybe.
Interesting idea.
Didn't they make onion soup as well? I know that famous bar had a recipe for it, but wasn't there
Oh,
also
yeah, the French onion soup.
French
Yeah.
onion soup? Yeah.
I think that was on my memorable night when I was 8. We had French onion soup. All the classics.
When we ate there one time, kids, so they brought us along once. And I remember Chris Mutro was there too at the time, and I think he had gotten Cherry's Jubilee, which they set on fire, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
I got to watch that. I thought that was pretty neat. And Crepes Suzette, same thing.
Yeah, and then they had like those sommeliers that had little velvet jackets, and they would have test van, and they'd like taste the wine at your table and do some sort of fancy wine opening that I've never experienced since.
Yeah, I mean, that was also special, especially in those days, when now you see, a lot of that around restaurants, etc.
In those days.
It was really very special. And all the decorations and and then Paul playing guitar, flamenco guitar there. That was pretty cool.
My mom said she met Paul at the Gaslight Bar, and he was playing guitar in the light, and I guess he went over and lit her cigarette, and it was all over after that. So
Like movies.
Yeah, I saw that movie.
You remember Grandma made the pie, the lemon pie for the recipe.
Oh.
Right.
And I have the recipe. You probably do too, don't you?
I have that recipe too. Yeah, my father would make it all the time in Mexico.
It's
The
amazing.
lemon cheese pie.
Yeah. It's kind of a light. It's delicious.
So
Very
Susie, did you ever have the garlic soup that your mom made?
I've made it myself, yes. And it's
Good.
funny.
I like that.
When people taste it, and it's like 100 cloves of garlic. People don't know what's in it.
Yeah.
I
Egg
mean, I've
yolk.
had my guests say, "Oh, this is fantastic," and they don't know that it's just loaded. Well, cooked garlic is amazing.
Hey,
Okay,
Susie,
yeah.
send me that recipe.
Oh, the garlic soup?
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good. Just a minute. Chris Klickner, do you feel checked in? I don't remember that we
I'm
gave you your
fine.
2 minutes.
That's fine. I'm listening.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, chime in with anything that you have to say.
Yeah.
Speaking of garlic soup, when I got out of the Peace Corps, I stayed for about a month in Paris. And then in the middle of the night, my Peace Corps friend said, let's go to Scotland. So it was just kind of a whim. So I had a new Volkswagen Beetle to bring with me. So we jumped in that car, but first we called up a friend of his who was a Romanian princess. And we took her, the three of us, and we went to Leal, which was still, was still there. And we had the classic French onion soup, which is kind of de rigueur. When you get through wining and dining and going to the opera or whatever, you'd always go to the Leal at in the middle of the night and have French onion soup. So that's what we did.
You are lucky to have that experience, Richard.
There's lots in my life that's pure luck. Yes.
That's really cool.
So then we traveled to Scotland and stayed in a house called Temple Cottage that was once owned by the Knights Templar. So that's another story. I won't continue at the moment for that, but when there's another pregnant pause, I'll chime in with that. So Susie,
could I say?
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't remember hearing Grandma play piano.
Really?
Which is sad. I'm just thinking, isn't that strange that, I mean, I know she was very, very busy, but I don't remember hearing her play. You all?
We took piano lessons from her, both while she was still living in Sumac Lane, and then also when she was in the apartment in Clayton. And I remember distinctly one time she really amazed us all and had fun and played a note. A piece that was consisted of all black keys only. Her fingers just flying across these black keys, and it was just fun to watch and see. Yeah.
Justin, do you remember the musicals that they had at Sumac Lane at Grandma's house?
So, what was it, Richie?
Well, what I recall was the whole family would gather in what was served as the music room at the Talbott house, and there must have been 20 or 30 of us. And I was young enough my participation was to sit on Paul's lap, and he would, with his left hand, he would play the chords and I would strum. But that's Grandma would play the piano, and let's see, I guess George probably played his trumpet or maybe the bass. Anyway, everybody had some way to contribute, and it was really, really fun. And,
I remember they used to sit out on the balcony or on the outdoor area, and they would play recorder. Elaine and Paul would play recorder, and then Elaine's dog Beagle Bailey would start chiming in.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Beagle Bailey was a rascal. He ate my mother's Christmas present mink stole.
Oh no!
Oh,
Not the entire thing, though.
Yeah, just one of my dolls too.
not the entire thing. Well, I sure loved playing our little recorder group in San Francisco in the 80s. I think that your mom made us do, Susie. She forced us all into it, especially me. I didn't know how to play recorder at the time. My father just handed me one and said, learn how to play this. And then your mom was like the ringleader, and we'd go to her apartment and have our recorder meetings. that was really cool.
Yeah. I remember Paul playing the flute when we were in Switzerland in Renault, the Chateau.
Oh.
And Paul would be there. I mean, it's just clear. They'd stay. A lot of the mutuals would just come over and stay. So it was very, very fun because we'd have Elaine was there, Paul, and we went to a chalet skiing, and they came.
Oh, I think I have a picture of you doing that.
Mhm.
Skiing.
But very, everybody very musical, and that was such an exciting house to be in, the semi-playing house.
How old were you when we were in Switzerland?
Me?
Yeah.
Maybe 5, 6.
You tell the story about your ring.
Oh yes, Richard. It's all his fault. No, anyway. Just kidding. Just kidding. Well, Richard, I think you were the only one that played with me. Johnny wouldn't have anything to do with me. So that was nice, Richard. But we would go down the Grand Promenade of the chateau, and I had this ring that my mother said, you can have it if you stop biting your nails or something like that, or when you get to be 7 or 8. So I put it on, down the Grand Promenade, but I hid it. And we were going to pretend that I found this wonderful ring. Oh my gosh, of course I didn't find it. And it's there somewhere now. That's the story. And Richard made me do it.
I'm completely innocent. Never had it.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, that chateau, it was the Chateau de Renan sur Roche. There was another chateau also called Chateau de Renan, but this one was sur Roche. And they had the myth of it was that there was an underground tunnel from one chateau to the other, but it was blocked up on our end, so kids wouldn't go in. But our parents, my parents in that whole family, tried for years to cut their way through and get into that sealed chamber, and we tried to as well. Nobody succeeded. But when we got there, first of all, we traveled from, this was my mother trying to recapture her childhood where they lived for a while at that chateau. So we were in England, and we traveled to first to Paris, and then on the Orient Express to Lausanne. And on the trip, I think Paul, or maybe Paul and George they had their baggage stolen, but the police recovered it. And we got out in the early morning at the Lausanne station, and it was my first taste of Swiss chocolat, cocoa in the morning. It was just divine. And it was all dark, so we walked up the Petit Chêne, which was a very steep road there. Finally got out to the chateau and went into the chateau, and we were met by Madame Lapp, who owned it. And we talked all night, and then we were ready to go to bed, and it was dawn. So she took us up to our rooms and opened up the windows, and for the first time we saw across Lake Geneva to the French Alps that were all snow-covered. And it was a mind-blowing kind of, oh my gosh, this is heaven. So the chateau was really a wonderful life experience.
Great.
And then when we went to bed, we had these enormous Swiss duvets. The first time we ever encountered anything that wonderful, a duvet. Oh my gosh.
And I remember Philip, off of my bedroom, there was a piano, and Philip would be there composing his music. And I thought, oh, it was so romantic. And so I would go up there and, kind of watch him. And I think he tolerated me, but I just, do you remember that, Richard?
I remember in general, but I don't remember what your room looked like even, so I'm not sure. Well, maybe I do. I remember a piano.
Myself. But I also remember Elaine was there, and I was, of course, hanging out with her because I wanted to, I was bugging everybody, basically. And she would be sunbathing. You know, the chateau had slits for windows. So she'd sunbathe like this so she could get everything in.
Right.
And then she'd go down to a certain spot. I think she was trying to get away from me. But I'd come down and we would sunbathe, and she had the sprinkle on her eyes, and it was just so fun. It was just, and we had a cook too. And she pretty much just made quiche and salads. And then
you're talking about Nellie?
Yeah. We had cherries, and then we had water, and she said, they can't do that because that's going to poison you. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh. So anyway. Nice.
But I remember Nellie.
Yeah.
She was a character too. Say, some more stories about Sumac Lane. Let's see. Well, we don't. Let's see. Johnny's the only one who. Justin tuned out. So.
Louise, were you ever at Sumac Lane there or at Gaslight Square?
No, but I was at the restaurant in Acapulco.
Mm. So did you guys ever go to St. Louis? I mean, when you were young?
Probably, but I remember very little. I just remember my grandfather cooking sausages. I don't remember a lot. I remember my two grandfathers at different trips, but I don't remember anything more than that.
Well, Anne, don't you remember a lot about Sumac Lane, Anne?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you mean by a lot? But I remember a goodly amount.
Did Grandpa know you?
I don't know. If so, he didn't pay much attention.
Okay, how many of us can sing Trempe ton pain Marie, trempe ton pain dans la sauce?
I can.
Anybody remember that?
I do. Yeah, we used to try to, we had, when we were in the car and
I don't know how to work that.
in Europe, we would sing the French songs. Mom had us, let us in a lot of French songs, so we would learn French. Because, you know, we were thrown into the local school.
Right.
We had a
Do you remember the French tutor that we had?
No, I didn't need it.
Well, maybe you got escaped, but the first thing Mom did was send us to a tutor to learn French. And she did it in a very kind of formalized, you know, intellectual French style. And it was just a catastrophe. We hated her and she hated us. And
maybe that
so
was
then they just threw us into school.
Oh.
And that was great. And then there came a time when you started dreaming in French. And that was a turning point.
Really? Oh, you. Okay.
You started dreaming in French.
I did? Well, I know one thing. I carried around a hot water bottle because I wanted a baby doll. And it looked a little weird, but you know, I mean, and it was warm. And I told Dad I wanted a big doll. So when my big doll was in England, so he would bring it. He brought it on the plane. I think he had to buy a seat for it. It's about this big. And so then I was happy. Then I threw away the water.
So,
and then, sorry.
Go ahead.
There was, in the chateau, there was a man who rented some homes there, really neat old guy, and he built ships that, in bottles. Do you remember that, Richard?
Professor Favet.
Oh, good, you remember.
Yeah, he made museum quality models of ships. Like I remember he did Sir Francis Drake's ship, the Golden Hind. He did that, and they were all beautifully intricate, just really tiny, and they were this size. End to end, but they were galleons and frigates and things like that. They were quite wonderful.
Yeah.
Captain likes to play Nolan.
So Johnny, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say two things. Actually, it's a lot of background noise again. I think it's you. Just somebody talking because it's been rattling.
Yeah, and I
Hard to
have a
concentrate on what
granddaughter
other people are
that's
saying.
talking to
Yeah.
me continually. If you excuse me.
If you can mute it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask, well, a couple of things. What is the hierarchy in the Talbott family? Johnny, then Susie, then Richie, or Richard, or what was the? I know Johnny was the oldest.
I was second.
Oh, you second. Okay.
And then Susie. But
Was it-
Susie sometimes thinks she's older than I am. I think she.
Yeah, I was noticing
because
that, so I'm
she's
surprised to hear
smarter
that.
than I am.
Treats
And
you
also
like a
she's
little brother
influenced.
sometimes.
She was influenced by Maurizio, who was definitely my senior. So she probably glommed on that and thinking that I was younger and had to be taught how to behave.
Well, okay, the other thing I was going to ask is, do you remember when you're talking about the chateau, was that like on the northern part, the top part of Lake Geneva, there near Montrose, that area? Not near Geneva on the southern part, right? Was it up there? Geographically?
Well, you know that Lake Geneva is kind of like a banana.
Yeah.
So it's at the middle of the Swiss side of the banana. It's just west of Lausanne.
Yeah. Okay.
And it used to be its own, suburb, but now it's kind of incorporated into Lausanne. It's hard to distinguish Renan. But the chateau is still there. It became a ping pong organization headquarters.
So, yeah,
but in our day, it was walled in, and so I felt like a prince living in this gated community house. And we had the run of the forest, which is, I don't know, a couple of acres of trees and bushes and branches and nature. And then the whole thing overlooked Lake Geneva, as I said, it had the largest plane tree in Europe in the front yard. It was amazing.
Well, plane trees, that's like a sycamore here, isn't it? Similar?
Similar, yeah.
Similar,
yeah.
Right.
And again, I have pictures of these things, and at some point when we get them together and figure out the right way to share them, that we can make it all available. So, in fact, the pictures that I have of the chateau are in that slideshow that I made.
Oh yeah, that was a great slideshow. So
well,
maybe you can make some more.
Thank you, but it could use more fleshing out. So,
right.
Again, that could be redone with more pictures.
I know we're kind of running out of time, so I probably don't have time to show the pictures. I'll maybe wait till next time if, when more people are on. And also, we never got back to Justin and his Compton story. So we have some follow-up items, I guess.
Right. Yeah, he owes us some stories. He was going to tell us. Well, yeah, I hope this kind of continues to be fun and we start making it going even deeper a little bit into our memories and things, and also what we're up to.
Here's a picture of the musical soirees.
Oh my gosh.
This? Who's that?
That's Maurizio.
Oh, that's Mauricio. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Susie.
Yeah.
Playing the recorder.
I got a lot of hair there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ann. I would like to also hear and get to people who aren't the Mutuos better sometime.
You mean
say again?
Well, because I don't want it to be all about just us cousins. I want to hear from the people who are connected with the cousins. Also,
that's Charles, right?
Yeah, I agree. Vicky's got some great history to relate. I want to know more about the Gottschalks.
Yeah.
And I want to know about the Acapulco experience from Mikey. And I want to know more about Anne, about your father and what your relationship is, and some of his stories.
Hmm.
Oh,
So
yeah.
all of these can be added. And Chris Kleckner, I don't know anything about you other than you know how to cook.
Man of mystery.
Say that way, huh?
International man of mystery.
That's right.
In that way. Be smart.
Well, Chris, I can tell you, Chris was an RN. He's an RN also, besides
Right.
myself.
But he's retired.
Okay, well,
Retired.
Yeah.
Okay. So
if anybody wants to say something to wrap up, I think this is about it for this time, but let's keep it up and look into your drawers and see what else you can bring to the meeting and
I think,
make this fun.
Richard, I think we should sing happy birthday to Susie.
Oh,
Not this part.
Oh, Sue's birthday is Monday.
Yeah, but, well,
1, 2.
Great.
happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to you. Happy birthday, dear Susie. Happy birthday to you. And many
Thank you very
Oh.
much. Thank you very much. I won't be on next week because I have another thing I have to do, but at least I know how to do it now. I
Yeah,
think.
that's
Bravo.
good. Thank goodness.
Thank you for persisting in that.
Ah, I was
We-
ready. I get that hot fudge sundae. I was ready to get it on.
You've earned it.
Hey, Sonny.
Okay, till next week, I guess.
Bye.
Next
Your
week.
mom does
Bye,
better,
everybody.
Mikey.
Yeah,
Bye.
best with
Thanks,
your mom.
Richard. Thanks, Richard.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
You're welcome.
Bye.